housing costs are still out of reach. And another thing that your administration is trying to tackle, many Americans, the average age of first-time home buyers are now up to age 40, which is sad. The country you and I grew up in.
I inherited that. Look, you have to understand.
Right, but let me get to the question, though, because your housing director has proposed something that has enraged your MAGA friends, which is this 50-year mortgage idea. So a significant MAGA backlash, calling it a giveaway to the banks and simply prolonging the time it would take for Americans to own a home outright. Is that really a good idea?
It's not even a big deal. I mean, you know, you go from 40 to 50 years. And what it means is you pay something less from 30. That some people had a 40, and then now they have a 50. All it means is you pay less per month. You pay it over a longer period of time. It's not like a big factor. It might help a little bit. But the problem was that Biden did this. He increased the interest rates. And I have a lousy Fed person who's going to be gone in a few months, fortunately. I have a guy too late. You know, Jerome Powell, we call him too late. He was too late in everything, except when it came to before the, the so-called Democrat election, which didn't work. But we're going to get interest rates down. But even with interest rates up, the economy is the strongest it's ever been. You know, you asked me, just to go back to the beginning of your question, you talked about prices. We're down on energy. We're down on interest rate. You know, interest rates are down despite the Fed. Now, if we had a normal person at the Fed would have really low interest rates, and we will soon have that. We'll have somebody.
So the president and the White House, they are floating the idea of a 50-year mortgage. And it's getting a lot of traction because the American dream of owning a home, it is getting further and further out of reach for many folks in this country. In practice, it's going to be pretty similar to the 30-year that we're all familiar with. You're going to have an interest rate. You're still going to have a down payment. You would just repay that loan over a longer period, in this case 50 years, versus the traditional 30. And it's all about affordability. It is cost prohibitive for many Americans to own a home. The average age of a first-time buyer in the U.S. has ticked up to a record high of 40 years old. I am one of these possible home buyers for the first time. So I did a lot of research. I want to share a big pro and a big con with you. The pro is a lower monthly payment. In a scenario where you've got a $500,000 mortgage, a 6% interest rate, you are going to pay over $400 less per month in the 50-year situation versus the 30-year. The con, though, is you're going to pay a lot more in interest over the life of that loan. In that scenario I just mentioned, hundreds of thousands more in interest alone. And because banks look at a longer term loan as more risky of an investment, you might actually have to pay a higher interest rate on the 50-year. So it's going to take longer to build ownership, build equity, own your home. You're going to be in debt longer. The takeaway here is critics say you could actually die before you own your home. But proponents say, I want to get in the game. I want to be able to build wealth and even have a shot at owning a home.